Hello and welcome back to the Franchise Growth Pod. My name is Belle, Director of Marketing here at AC Inc. And I am back on the podcast today with Jen. How's it going, Jen?
It's great, Belle. How are you?
I am good. I am going to ask you this icebreaker, and I'm going to also tell you my answer. I've decided.
Okay.
But you are going to answer first.
Okay.
Your dream job when you were a kid. I don't think I've ever
Well,
asked this icebreaker to anyone before, actually, on the show.
I don't know about if it was my dream job or the job I always thought I was going to do. So I'll go with the job I thought I was going to do, and it was going to be a social worker. Because when I was a kid, my parents were foster parents to a bunch of kids over a couple of years. And we had this really cool foster or social worker that was our worker, I guess, that helped
Yeah.
help facilitate everything. And I just thought she was awesome. And so my whole life thought I was going to be a social worker. I went to university to be a social worker, and here I am.
Wow, that is
This,
actually so interesting. I did not know that.
hmm,
That's really cool. It's neat how like the people who you think are so cool when you're growing up and like the jobs they have, it's really neat how much that impact and the fact that you went to school for it and everything, like that's really, really cool.
yep. You never know where your life path is going to go, though.
Yeah. Oh, that's very true. I always thought I was gonna be an artist when I was a really little kid. I loved art.
Mm.
But when I got older and like had to start figuring out actually what I wanted to do, I thought I wanted to be a teacher and like go abroad and teach overseas and like be just this adventure girl. And that is, if you know me, that is not my energy, like at all. So actually my then boyfriend, now husband, told me, he's like, you don't want to do that. Like, and it was risky because obviously I could have really wanted to, but he's like,
Mhm.
no, that's not what you really want to do. I think you're
That's
just scared to say you really want to be creative. Like you really like that artist thing was like very true when you were a kid. So I always think that's really cool too, is when people like know you and they're like, is that actually, or is that just like in your head? You're like, that would be a
yeah,
cool thing, but is that
right.
actually your personality?
Yeah, no, for
So
sure.
I,
My new dream job, not that I'm going to do it, is a casting agent for movies and TV.
ooh. Can I just talk about how having a new dream job is going to be my new personality trait? I love that.
At 53 years old, my new dream job is a casting agent.
That's a great one. I could actually see you doing that. You should look into it part-time
Eh,
because you have so many hours to
yeah,
put into new projects.
yeah.
That's so funny. That's a great one.
Maybe my next life.
Yes, yeah, of course. My favorite though, I'm from a big family, so I had little sisters all around me all the time. One of them, I can't remember which one, honestly, her answer for a really long time when she was a kid was a Pegasus farmer. And I
That's a
thought that was
great
a
one.
great dream job.
That's awesome.
Oh, so good. Okay, so speaking of personalities and all of that, we're actually going to be diving into adjusting coaching for different franchisees. So we're going to talk about different like coaching methods, a couple examples of how you might approach a franchisee differently, how you might really try to figure out your coaching style or method or your characteristics so that you can understand why it might not resonate with a franchisee as well. So we're going to be kind of diving into that, like personality. I didn't even do the dream job personality type on purpose, but that worked out well for the segue. Um, so I want to ask first about really understanding your own coaching style, and you are really passionate about this. We built out big tools on this that we use in our assessments and stuff like that. Do you want to maybe give a brief background on the Zoracle tool that we use, the Zoracle profile? We've worked with their team; they're awesome, to build out a bit of an assessment for field coaches, understanding your behavioral characteristics around coaching and just your personality. Do you want to just briefly go over like how understanding that really helps approaching coaching conversations and how you might need to adjust?
Yes, yes. So Zoracle is a behavioral science tool.
Mhm.
It was originally designed for brands to find the right franchisees that they were looking for.
Mhm.
And we've now partnered with Zoracle and created one for field coaches so that field coaches can take the Zoracle assessment and see where they measure in. And there's all kinds of different categories, but things like core values and work styles and business competencies, the emotional and social intelligence, and things like that. And what it really does is it just gives you an understanding of yourself and where you fit in those different areas. And what we also have done is we have um had a whole whack, I don't know what the number is, 100, or I'm not sure what the number is, of field coaches take this assessment, and we've got parameters built, or Zorkel's done it for us, of kind of top performing field coaches where they measure in.
Mm,
So it's good because a field coach can take that and see what those parameters are, and if they're too high or too low in a certain element. And then it's about, because if you understand it and know it and recognize it, then it's going to be, okay, what do I need to do about that? So, for instance, someone may be shown that they're very, very societal, for instance, is one of the categories. And the downside of that is maybe they're not holding their franchisees accountable because they care too much about the friendship and the social aspect of it. And so it's really interesting to see the results of something like that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so societal, we love using that one as an example because it's such an evident one once you realize what it is the yeah, how much you value or how much you prioritize that connection and friendship and relationship versus accountability, having tougher conversations, right? Those types of things. So guess which one Jen is. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Yeah,
I'm just teasing.
definitely.
But yeah, so the understanding of that, and that was actually a great summary of like how we've used this tool, again, such an incredible tool for the franchise development process and recruitment and all of that as well, that we've partnered with them to create a tool that then can be used to really understand yourself as a coach and your own coaching style, your own coaching maybe competencies and things that you might need to be improving on. So once you kind of have that understanding, and actually we have a couple of our academy courses that we have coming up use the Zoracle profile. I just thought of that actually. They use it just so that's kind of an additional thing that you're going to get out of being in the courses. We ask you to take it and really understand your own coaching methods and whether you are more societal, right? What your emotional and social intelligence is compared to different coaches and things like that. It's a really valuable tool to like learn more about your style and methods and personality as a coach. But then let's talk about the inverse of that, which is what our goal obviously today is to be talking about how we would adjust certain coaching tools or techniques or methods or approaches with different types of franchisees. So for the different types of franchisees, they're typically, and I'm actually very guilty of doing this too, typically we would kind of separate franchisees into different levels of performance, right? So someone who's maybe struggling a little bit more in their business really is going to need that extra support. Someone who's a middle performer, so they're trucking along, and then top performers who are just like going after it, trying to hit all the goals, have really figured out the system side, right? Things like that. And typically that would be a way we would categorize different ways you'd approach coaching, right? So someone's going to need a lot more support, maybe on the operations side or the day-to-day side. Someone's going to need more of that strategic growth coaching to reach that next level, or someone's going to more need like accountability, long-term vision planning, right? So there's these different types of franchisees that we would use just this one way of categorizing. But there's so many different ways we can adjust coaching and so many different ways that franchisees are different from one another. So one that I want you to kind of get into a little bit is the personality like in calls. So this will be like a solid example of how you would adjust coaching, not based on just the low, top, middle performance, but on maybe like a personality trait of a franchisee. Like what's maybe an example of how you've seen that play out in the past?
Well, there's so, like you said, there's so many, understanding your own personality style as well as your own coaching style. And typically they're very intermixed. So
Yeah.
whether it's the disc profile, if you've done that, or the angiogram, I think is another one, or, the color wheel type thing, there's all kinds of names, really kind of understanding that and having an understanding of the different styles and knowing your franchisee. What color, style, whatever are they? Because as we've said many times, they're not going to change, so we have to change. As the coach, one of the top characteristics of a coach is being able to be adaptable and be able to be flexible. So for instance, I am very much like a direct person. I'm very much as a coach, even I'm like, because I was a top performing franchisee, that I got stuff done.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm kind of on the red side of things. But now if I have a franchisee who's opposite of that, who, if I'm like, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this, and away you go, and I'm not going to follow up with them, that's not going to work.
Mhm.
So I can't be like that. I have to figure out, okay, I need to be soft. I need to, ask for clarification, get them to repeat back a lot more of what they're going to do, make sure they're feeling good about it and they understand. And we've agreed how I'm going to follow up with them. And, whatever their needs are, I'm going to adjust that approach. I'm going to adjust how I'm going to talk to them.
Mm.
My follow up with them to really be whatever those needs are. It's often related to that personality, kind of color, but sometimes it is also skill level, that
Mm.
they just don't have that knowledge, skills, and ability to do whatever it is we're doing on coaching, and I have to adjust for that as well.
Yeah.
So, and those are, again, all intermixed with, are they top, low, mid performer, but not always.
Yeah.
So it's really having that full understanding of yourself and the other, kind of personality styles and needs, and taking the time to ask those questions
Yeah.
of your franchisee to find out what their needs are or how they like to be approached.
Definitely. I also think another example you and I talked about, that I thought was really, really cool was uh I mean, we talked about the skill set thing, but the way someone gets stuff done, and you just talked about someone who might need a little bit more like gentle follow-up, reminders, someone who's maybe a little bit more like busy day to day, right? So then just habits and routines of that franchisee is another thing to consider. Their style of communication, do they love written communication? Do they love voice notes, right? So all of those are great examples. One you said though, as we were prepping for this episode that I'll get you to repeat, is the one where someone might not want to talk about it for all that long, and they're the opposite. And we were saying, we were joking, like you and I are both chatters, so we'd be like, let's get on a call and like chat about the whole thing. And some people actually don't want to spend half an hour on a call talking about the whole process. They'd actually rather go, oh, I'll get it done. I just don't really want to spend 30 minutes on this call talking about it. I'd rather just know the steps. I'd rather just go implement. That's such a different approach to someone who might need more time on a call, as you were saying, like someone who's really needing to talk through the examples and maybe do some role play so that they're feeling comfortable to go call that school or whatever it is, right? Um, I just find that is such an interesting part of the coaching relationship, is really getting to understand, is someone a doer? Is someone a listener? Is someone like a what is that called? Kinetic, like having to do things. Do they need to practice it a bunch of times with you on the call? I just think that's so interesting and such a different way of looking at how can I evolve as a coach and level up even further. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that? I love that example that you said earlier, and I think that's such a good way of looking at the different styles of franchisees, and then how you as a coach and knowing yourself, as you said, and how you would naturally want to do it versus going, oh, someone is not going to want to hop on a call with me for an hour to talk about it,
Yeah.
or they really are, and they're going to want us to go over examples and practice it and role play it, so they're really feeling comfortable with those next action steps. Anything else you want to add to that example?
Well, I will say, I know a perfect example of a coach who that was the talker,
Mhm.
and the talk around everything, and then the franchisee who was, like top performer, like a full on red direct,
Yes.
cut to the chase,
Yeah.
and the meetings drove him crazy
Mhm.
because I was like, I don't have time for this. I just want to, let's get through it.
The steps.
And
Yeah.
and
Give
then
me what I
and
need
that
to be working on.
Totally. And that franchisee stopped answering the phone calls and the emails of the
Wow.
coach because they just did not communicate well. And that coach was really not understanding that they were too much in that regard for this franchisee. And they needed to be like, meet the franchisee where that. What do you need from me? Here's the style. here's
Yeah,
what we got, let's go, kind of thing, because that's what was needed. So
it's
it's
so true. It's so true.
really important. And we do, like, a little plug for our Academy and Accelerator programs. We've got courses that are directly about understanding your own coaching style, understanding personality styles, and how to um, adjust and make those changes that you need to make as the coach.
Yeah, yeah, great plug, Jen.
Yes.
Last thing here before we finish up, because we've gone over several examples. We talked about the like understanding your own style and how that applies to then starting to understand your franchisees, just style of operation. My one question that's coming up though is how much is too much where it doesn't make sense to be evolving your coaching style anymore? Like I guess I wonder, and this of course depends on the type of system you have. Do you have tons of field coaches and it actually might make sense to match them up with someone who is a better fit versus there's really only one field coach and we need to be evolving our methods and style just so that we can best support each franchisee. Um, is there like a point where it doesn't make sense to be evolving your coaching style so much and it would make sense to maybe match them up with another coach? This is something I actually don't know the answer to. I'm curious if there is ever a case where it would like make more sense to try to find them a different coach in the system. Obviously, that's if you're in a system where there are different coaches and you have the ability to do that. But is that usually an option that's on the table, or is coaching styles and methods usually if you're really working on your coaching, really working on your techniques, is there typically a way to be evolving your style of communication or of goal setting or of accountability so that there can be movement forward even if you don't, naturally match up your styles as much?
I think it's something that's not ever done. I think somebody who's really done the work to understand it and is very intentional about just adjusting their approach and communication style, I
Yeah.
think that fits for always, like for every session that they do. However, that is few and far between
Mhm.
that people are really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's something you're always working at. I'm a big believer in, I mean, everything's about the relationship between the coach and the franchisee. So if there's an opportunity that just personalities don't jive, I mean, you can't change who you are. You're
Of
just
course.
changing your approach when you can to the franchisee. But it's just that chemistry is not there, what variety of reasons. So if a change can happen, then I'm all for it if it's going to make everyone a little bit happier, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, but you wouldn't like that's not typically a recommendation. The recommendation is to work on the coaching method you'd be using and really working on yourself and understanding, okay, I know that I'm a bit more of a chatty
Yeah.
person on these calls and they actually are needing more direct or they're going to need more tangible practical practice of these things that we're doing, not so much talking about it, right? So those types of different approaches or understanding their skill set and things like that, that's typically always the way we would approach it, unless, as you said, more just genuine, your personalities don't jive. That would be more of a genuine, let's see if there's another option out there.
Yeah.
I think that's a great answer. And I'm sure something that's coming to mind as people are listening to how much would we evolve, how much would we adjust versus trying to find someone who maybe just jives a bit better. But I think that's a great answer. Anything else before we finish up today's episode?
No, I think we've covered a
We've
lot today.
covered it. We have covered a lot. That was some great examples. Loved hearing more about the Zoracle profile, how we use it, how you can use it as a coach, and just in general, behavioral analysis, personality testing, things like that can all be used to understand more about yourself, understand more about your franchisees, and ultimately make everyone a better coach and or business owner. Thank you all so much for listening today. Have a wonderful rest of your week and go be awesome.